Okay, so so far we have read one major section from the Letters on Yoga on the Jivatman, the psychic being, and the spark soul. Today we have to start reading this section, which is shown on the screen. Psychic being is the title. It's a subsection from parts of the being and planes of consciousness. I had mentioned in the last session that for the true depth of psychological knowledge, um, obviously the synthesis of yoga and the life divine, that way are the main books, especially the synthesis of yoga. Yoga is nothing but practical psychology, you know, from that sentence. But not like, but it's not, books are not same. They are written in a different spirit at times. But for easy reading, not very long sentences, the language being easier, etc. The section planes and parts of the being from Letters on Yoga I had mentioned last time. So it is from this section. I'm not sure the previous section which we read was from this or not. So at least we'll be reading this one. Why we are reading? Because I mean we branched off from the Gita second chapter verses 2.11 to 2.30 regarding the psychic being and spark soul and all that. So in continuation of that, uh, this is section is on the psychic being. We'll begin, right? So okay. I would say that who would like to start reading this? Anybody would volunteer?
Yeah, I can do that.
So you can read Dhaval bhai. These because last one is quite big. This one looks a little big. That maybe somebody else can read. Um, 1 second. Yeah, you read till the first four this thing letters, then we'll begin this. Okay. Hmm. The
Hey,
psychic being, the psychic and the divine.
yeah. The psychic and the divine. They, the psychic being and the divine presence in the heart, are quite different things. The psychic being is one's own individual soul being. It is not the divine, though it has come from the divine and develops towards the divine. It, the psychic, is constantly in contact with the immanent divine, the divine secret in the individual. It is the psychic that is in direct relation with the transcendent divine and leads the nature upwards towards the supreme. The divine is always in the inner heart and does not leave it.
Hmm. 1 second. Better to first deal with this. The psychic and the divine. Psychic is short here for the psychic being in the heading. Um, the evolutionary soul, basically, the personality put forward by the soul for the purposes of evolution. They, the psychic being, and the divine presence in the heart are quite different things. Hmm. The psychic being is one's own individual soul being. It is not the divine, though it has come from the divine and develops towards the divine. Hmm. Dhaval bhai, you had a question regarding the part in brackets. Do you still have the question?
Yeah, the thing so far, what is confusing for me is
Hmm.
ये जो 18.65 जो 10
18.61.
61 अर्जुन वो हृदय तिष्ठति वाला
Mm.
So we have. I was always thinking that psychic being and divine are the same thing because it's developing. So it's ultimately it unites with the divine. So isn't that what
It
we have?
unites with the divine. Na?
But then we have so far
No, no,
said ki,
I understand. I
so
understand.
that's where the confusion stems actually from.
Mm. So, okay, I mean, these are things of experience and they can best be understood only by experience, but we are making an intellectual effort to understand this. So,
Uh, uh,
that's basically, when
mm,
he's saying they, the psychic being, and the divine presence in the heart are quite different things. And then he says the psychic being is one's own individual being, it is not the divine, D capital. Okay. So, what he's mean, the difference is between the divine proper means the Purushottama, the Lord जिसको बोलते हैं. Lord though is the equivalent English for Ishvara, Parameshwara, etc. And us, which is the individual soul being. That is what he's meaning. क्या डिफरेंस है उसमें? Who are we? How are we defined? In terms.
no, divine is understood, Anmol. By
हाँ.
divine is
नहीं,
fine,
but your
but
question
divine
is how are they
presence,
different things? That is the question, ना?
हाँ डिवाइन प्रेजेंस और ये अलग चीज कैसे हुई
The
फिर?
divine presence in the heart जो है ना,
हाँ.
you are correct. That is referring to the Ishvaraha Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe of the Gita. There are other verses in the Gita which are having the word Hrit. ठीक है? 10.20 में है, किसमें है? सर्वस्य चाहम हृदि सन्निविष्टो. This is in
15
15.15.
point, हाँ. Yeah.
हाँ, ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम्. दिस इज 13.18. एंड देर इज 10.20. वहाँ पे हृत वर्ड नहीं है. अहमात्मा गुडाकेश सर्वभूताशय स्थितः अहमादिश्च मध्यम च, बट इट इज ट्रांसलेटेड एज दिस ओनली कि द
हम्म.
सेल्फ इन द हार्ट, राइट. बट what he is saying कि why they are different, because very simply जो साइकिक बीइंग है या जो सोल है, जो जीवा है, हाउ इज दैट डिफाइंड इन द गीता? 15.7 is defined as the ansha. So the difference is between the portion and that which is the total, and that from where this thing is originating. इसका ये मीनिंग है. This
हम्म.
is what it means.
अच्छा अच्छा, एज अ पोर्शन दो, नॉट इन टर्म्स ऑफ
You are not,
क्वालिटी
see,
कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग.
आप बहुत सिंपल तरीके से समझो. क्या हम भगवान हैं? नहीं ना.
नहीं नहीं, वो बराबर हो गया. तो
बस बस.
तो द क्वेश्चन इज नो, माय क्वेश्चन इज स्टिल अनमोल बाय डिवाइन प्रेजेंस. तो फिर डिवाइन प्रेजेंस क्या हुई फिर? अगर
Lord,
साइकिक बीइंग द
the divine, the Parameshwara, the Lord, भगवान.
अच्छा, डिवाइन प्रेजेंस वो वाली बात है ये.
आप वो प्रेजेंस वर्ड से और वो कर रहे हो कि डिवाइन क्यों नहीं
हाँ,
है,
मैं वहां
केवल
कंफ्यूज हो
डिवाइन
रहा
क्यों
हूँ.
नहीं. हाँ, तो डिवाइन प्रेजेंस का मतलब डिवाइन है.
अच्छा
द
अच्छा
वर्ड
अच्छा.
डिवाइन प्रेजेंस हियर इन द हार्ट मीन्स हृदयेशे ईश्वर. हृदय के अंदर जो ईश्वर है, यानी कि बेसिकली द लॉर्ड इन द हार्ट. क्लियर?
ओके ओके.
और जो जीवा है, विच अस मतलब इंडिविजुअल, दैट इज ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः. 15.7. I know it strikes you when you read are quite different things.
हाँ, that is where I am tossed off completely,
But
logically.
there is a difference. The
हाँ.
divine, we all are individual soul beings. But what is our practical omnipotence? क्या है? Limited है. We
हम्म.
have certain mental power, certain vital power, certain physical power, some degree of spiritual power also, which is more subtle. But वो जो omnipotence है, जो भी मत, the way the divine is defined, omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience, this is one of the ways
हम्म.
of defining the divine, right?
हम्म. हम्म.
Sachidananda is the सबसे philosophical definition given in the Vedanta, but more practically, this is how we conceive of the divine, isn't it?
हम्म.
So, of that omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience, how much have we manifested or realized?
It's a
Limited.
portion.
That's
It's a
it.
very, it's a portion. That is
Yes.
true.
In
And
that
Jiva
sense,
is central being. Sri Aurobindo clarifies in one of the letters that we
Jiva
read.
is central being. Jiva
Whether
is-
you call it Jiva or Jivatma or Jivatman, all mean the or central
It
being
means the
mean the
central
same.
being. That central being projects itself into the
हाँ.
human system, or rather, he says terrestrial living creatures. So, not just the human system, even in
Yeah.
the
He
हाँ,
says terrestrial, correct. So it's in
terrestrial, in
every
all
being.
terrestrial living beings.
Correct,
So
correct, correct,
terrestrial means of the earth, living beings, we know
correct.
it is living beings, and that becomes the soul spark. That is the representative of the jiva here in the human, in the living system, sorry, terrestrial living creatures. And that in turn puts forth a soul personality or a psychic personality, which is called the psychic being. Right? That is what we have covered in detail. So they, the psychic being and the divine presence in the heart are quite different things. Now, more practically, इसमें बाकी दो sentences भी हैं. One second. The psychic being is one's own individual soul being. हमारा खुद का individual soul being. It is not the divine, capital D. Though it has come from the divine, aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything originates from me. 10.8. मैं सारी चीजों का प्रभव हूं, ओरिजिन हूं. So though it has come from the divine and develops towards the divine, where is it going? Towards the divine. Hmm?
Ah,
ये था.
prabhavo. Prabhavo means from bhava, progressing forward, right?
नहीं, aham sarvasya prabhava I had quoted for the second part of the sentence, coming from the divine. Aham sarvasya prabhava is translated as I am the origin of everything. So prabhava का मतलब origin है. आप
अच्छा.
जिसको सेंस में ले रहे हैं उसका ये अर्थ है, भव means becoming,
हाँ,
from
हाँ,
which everything has come into forward becoming. pra meaning forward, bhava meaning becoming.
हाँ. Okay, okay.
For
Got
the
it.
last part, develops towards the divine. वही जो मैंने 10.20 कोट किया था, अहम आदिश्च मध्यम च भूतानाम अंत एवच, आई एम द एंड ऑफ ऑल बीइंग्स. वन इज दैट फ्रॉम द गीता. मैं बहुत, आई नो वेरी वेरी फास्ट वे आई एम टेलिंग ऑल दीज, आई रिपीट इट, आई ट्राई टू रिपीट इट. 10.20 का ये है. एंड देन देर इज 4.11, ये यथा माम प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः. So it is my path that men follow in all ways, O son of Pritha. Hmm? So, but that is more indirect if you see the language. Mama, और ये मम वर्तमानो वर्तन्ते थर्ड चैप्टर में भी आता है. But
Mhm.
that also is explained by multiple people as meaning that our ultimate goal from, I mean, the where we are developing towards, that is the divine only, nothing else. Okay, but aham adishcha madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha is even more direct. Why
Hmm.
I'm saying this, मतलब क्या जरूरत है सब बोलने की? For the very simple reason कि अगर ये चीज फिक्स हो जाए, जैसे वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट वी हैव ट्राइड टू फिक्स सो फार इन अवर स्टडी 2.20 ऑफ द गीता, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. By the help of this verse and the idea contained in it, the fixed thing, at least mentally to begin with, that there was never a time when I was not, there will never be a time when I will not be. The sense of the eternity of even the individual soul. Same thing is meant when the word Sanatana is used in 15.7. Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhutaha sanatana. ऐसे ऑन द गीता में पेज 445 पे, एज आई सेड, राइट. तो एक वो आइडिया अगर फिक्स हो जाए तो इट्स ऑब्वियसली लीड्स टू अभयम. दैट्स द ओनली ट्रू वे इन विच फियरलेसनेस कैन कम. एंड दिस आइडिया कि मैं अल्टीमेटली वेर आई एम डेवलपिंग टुवर्ड्स इज द डिवाइन, बिकॉज ये मैं कहाँ जा रहा हूँ, मैं कहाँ जा रहा हूँ, मेरा क्या होगा, मेरी क्या गति होगी, ये क्वेश्चन इज यूबिक्विटस, इट इज देयर इन ऑल बीइंग्स. मेरा क्या होगा, हाय मेरा क्या होगा. इसी वजह से लोग अच्छे काम करते हैं, कम से कम स्वर्ग में चले जाए. नो, वी ऑल नो दैट, राइट. सो by keeping this in mind, कि I am going, there is no other place from to which I can go, sorry, except the divine. ईश्वर के अलावा कोई और अल्टीमेट गति नहीं. Of course, this is the ultimate. If we, do wrong things, then the process of reaching back the divine gets delayed. It can never not happen ultimately, can get delayed. But even to get this fixed, I have come from the divine, I am in the divine right now, and the divine alone is my destination, by which, I mean, psychologically and spiritually, we mean the divine consciousness. The consciousness returning back to its poise and station in the in its divinity, in its divine poise. ठीक है? It's very important to get this idea fixed in the mind कि मेरी और कोई अल्टीमेट गति नहीं है. इससे एक मतलब one becomes free of a lot of nonsensical tension, useless tension कि हाय मेरा क्या होगा, अरे क्या होगा, सबका एक ही होना है. Nobody is going to reach anywhere else except the divine. ठीक है? इसलिए ये पॉइंट बोला जाता है. Is that clear? So they, the psychic being and the divine presence in the heart are quite different things. The psychic being is one's own individual soul being. It is not the divine, though it has come from the divine and develops towards the divine. Yes, Yogesh.
Yeah, Anmol, just one quick question. You said
Yes.
the only reason why you would be fearless is because you are always, even as a psychic spark or as a psychic
Being.
entity, you are always there. You just now made this point that, look, you're always there.
Yes.
I'm saying, why should that be a reason to make you fearless? Can you just now said that, look,
No. Okay. I understood your question. I think I understood your question. So the root cause of all fear is the fear of non-existence. If you look at when fears come to you, कि why am I, क्या होगा, क्या होगा, क्या होगा, अल्टीमेटली इट कम्स टू दिस कि मैं मर जाऊंगा या मैं नहीं रहूंगा. एक्चुअली आई हैड रेड दिस आर्टिकुलेटेड
think
फर्स्ट
so.
बाय मदर. लेट मी जस्ट फिनिश देन आई विल से जो मैं बोलना चाहता हूं, देन प्लीज. तो देयर इज एन आर्टिकल by the mother on death, the fear of death and the four ways of conquering it. So I read the sentence there. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something to this effect that the root cause of all fear is the fear of death. There she didn't use the word non-existence that I am using right now, but the root cause of all fear is this idea कि I myself will not be. Non-existence का जो idea है, that is the root cause of all fear. So by getting this fixed in our mind कि there was never a time when I was not and there will never be a time I will not be, ये fear मतलब इसे वो root out हो जाता है. This is my understanding and I mean the way I have been able to articulate it to myself so far. GT was saying something.
No, Anmol, let it be. Thank you.
No, but is it clear, Yogesh bhai? I know, I mean,
Yeah, Anmol, makes sense. Thanks.
Makes sense. Anybody else was saying anything? Chat में कुछ आया था. अच्छा, somebody has quoted a line from Savitri, passage from Savitri. क्या है? This in us laughs and weeps, suffers the stroke, exults in victory, struggles for the crown, identified with the mind and body and life. It takes on itself their anguish and defeat, bleeds with faith, swips and hangs upon the cross, yet is the unwounded and immortal self, supporting the actor in the human scene. Page from Savitri. Archana ji has quoted. Yeah, this is, I mean, Savitri
Anmol,
always adds another, you know.
Anmol, when you listen to what Savitri has to say, I think this aspect of pain, this aspect of pida, right? That when you look at fear, and we've been through some trauma by now in our lives, so isn't fear also linked to the really traumatic experiences one goes through?
Yes, it is. That's why I said the root cause. And again, I'm not saying this on my authority. I mean, obviously, I have no authority that way. Mother ने ये बोला था that the root cause of all fear is the fear of death. And आप, it's very simple also. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई वो बहुत mystical चीज है. आप ये सोचो ना, डर लगता है, फिर क्या होगा, फिर क्या होगा, फिर क्या होगा. Ultimately, it comes to यार मैं मर जाऊंगा. अब वो मर जाना क्या है? Fear of not being there, fear of not existing. अगर हम अपने थॉट प्रोसेस को देखें वो इसी तरह चलता है. एंड वंस आप उस पॉइंट पर पहुंच जाए कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्या होगा, मैं मर जाऊंगा ना. आप मर ही नहीं सकते. तो जब मर ही नहीं सकते तो भाई फियर किस बात का. मरेगा तो वो जो जन्म ले, तो दैट विच इज अनबॉर्न एंड इटर्नल, हाउ कैन देयर बी एनी फियर फॉर दैट in that way? But you are right. If one doesn't go to that extreme core, then fear and all is because of trauma. ये हुआ था तो उस वजह से मुझे डर लगता है कि कहीं वो दोबारा ना हो जाए. राइट. बट अगर हम उसको कॉज एंड इफेक्ट के सेंस में देखें कि अगर ये होगा तो क्या होगा, अगर वो हो गया तो क्या होगा, अगर वो हो गया तो क्या होगा, फाइनली इट कम्स टू दिस, यार मैं ही नहीं रहूंगा, आई विल डाई. Isn't it?
right? So
That's
Anmol,
my
and
mother said this.
it is also linked to the fact that if you look at it, if I am that pure soul, if I am the spark and the psychic entity which is within me, then at some stage, this journey of lifetimes, I should get an insight that, look, I am Yogesh in this lifetime, but if I am in that pure consciousness, I should be aware that I was something else and something else, right? But I don't meet anybody. I mean, we've talked about people who are in that spiritual, they've existed. They no longer are in transit to experience that bliss. But nobody gives us a feeling that, yeah, because I'm in that state, I know of all my past lifetimes because I am the psychic entity which was experiencing multiple births and therefore multiple stories. And the current one, this is my identity, which is Yogesh, for example. I don't see anybody categorically say that, which is what is implied now.
Yeah. I'm actually sorry. I got a notification about my Gmail password. क्या बोलते हैं उसको compromise on my this thing. So मेरा ध्यान वहाँ चला गया था. I'm sorry. I'll just close this for now. Uh, okay. I am very sorry. I could not hear what you were saying because I got I got afraid because of that.
No, no.
Yeah.
All I was saying is,
Yeah.
Anmol,
Yeah.
that this reality that I always exist
Yeah.
is linked to a realization of us being the psychic entity,
Yeah.
the spark soul. It's
Yeah.
only when you experience that reality
Yes.
do you realize that I'm always there. How can I
Yes.
not be there? Because I'm there. I'm there. I'm
Yes.
there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
that is directly linked with us being in a fearless state because that's when you realize, you experience that I'm always there. Isn't a possibility that I was never there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, as you rightly explained, fear is a entity, the fact that I may not exist. As you said, all the trauma and pain goes to the extent of death, where Yogesh as an entity stops existing.
Exactly.
So I agree with you that the fear is linked to the identity, which is the ego consciousness. So the only way I was saying that, because you were saying that the fearlessness state is because you're always there. But all I was saying is that that is, in most cases, something that you have to take as a belief then, because that's
Yes.
what the scripture is.
Yeah.
That's the only
Correct.
point I was making.
Correct. 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 And I mean, the scripture is meant to see. First of all, you will have to begin with belief. जिसको कहते हैं ना श्रद्धावान लभते ज्ञानम इन द गीता. Now you have to even believe in this. अगर वो faith ही नहीं होगी तो then you can't even take one step forward on the path, right? But the scripture is meant to, if you follow the scripture, then you will get the realization. It will no longer remain a belief. It will become a living experience. That, I mean, should be said also. Vasudeva
Perfect.
Sarvamiti. This is where the Gita wants to lead you. And ultimately, even higher, I mean, Vasudeva Sarvam is for the universal, even the transcendent state, where you're beyond everything and you're totally free. So thank you, Archana ji, for this very appropriate quotation from Savitri. Please post this on the group because many things which are there on the chat, they remain here. Matlab, they'll get lost once the session is over. So yeah. Anybody else has anything regarding this first letter that we have read? Otherwise, we can move to the next one. No? Okay. Next. The psychic is constantly in contact with the immanent divine. Acha, I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to mention, which had come to my mind regarding the first snippet. So I've mentioned this quotation of Sri Aurobindo, a veil behind the heart, a lid over the mind, divides us from the divine. Love and devotion rend the veil. In the quietude of the mind, the lid thins and vanishes. And we have also read that the psychic being, the natural attitude of the psychic being is to feel itself, the child, the son of God, the bhakta, right? So that bhakti comes from the psychic being, but through that bhakti, the glimpse that you get when that veil is rent, that glimpse is of the Ishvara himself. Okay, so ध्यान की अवस्था में ईश्वर को देखा जाता है, maybe in the heart region. So it is the divine who is seen by the practice of bhakti. and the psychic being is the bhakta. Of course, when that glimpse is seen, then there is no difference, because the experience of truth is the experience of oneness, however momentary it may be. So you will lose it, but when you're back in the poise of the individual, then you will understand the difference, the practical difference for the purposes of the manifestation between you, the soul, and the divine, who is the everything. Is it clear? So basically, in the spiritual experience, when one experiences the presence in the heart, you feel it as the divine. You don't, matlab, you don't think that me, the psychic being, is experiencing myself as myself. It's not like that. Okay. What you experience when that revelation happens through bhakti, the experience is said to be that of the divine, and that ecstasy which comes because of that. So this was another thing. Now, the psychic is constantly in contact with the immanent divine. Immanent is that which is inside us. So there is a line from Savitri which helps to understand this. The immanent lives in man as in his house. Worth remembering. Just as a man lives in his house, similarly, the immanent lives in man. The immanent lives in man as in his house. ये उपमा एक दी जाती है. So the psychic is constantly in contact with the immanent divine. In contact, sparsha. Sanskrit word for contact is sparsha. But that is also not the total identity. Why now? When the total identity happens, then there is actually no difference. You are one with it and you are functioning in oneness with the divine. The language has to be seen very minutely. The psychic is constantly in contact with the immanent divine. What is the immanent divine? The divine secret in the individual. या हृद गुहा बोलते हैं उसको एक जगह पे. गुहा, फिर वो, आई डोंट नो इफ द वर्ड गुफा कम्स फ्रॉम दैट, बिकॉज गुफा इज नॉट अ संस्कृत वर्ड, बट बेसिकली वो जो सेंस आता है उससे ऑफ समथिंग बीइंग सीक्रेट. सो इट इज द डिवाइन सीक्रेट इन द इंडिविजुअल. उसको अपने अंदर, व्हेन यू डिग विद इन योरसेल्फ, देन दैट थिंग इज डिस्कवर्ड. गीता में भी ये वर्ड आता है, रहस्यम उत्तमम, दो नॉट इन द सेंस ऑफ द इमनेंट डिवाइन, बट दिस डज कम in the 4th chapter. Okay, it is a secret. It's not something evident, something which has to be discovered by realization. Next.
So here in this line, Anmol Bhai, this is amply clear now that psychic is different and the immanent divine is different.
Yes.
Because it is in constant contact.
Yes. Contact. So you're like on a phone, let's say, and you're in contact with somebody. But it's
Correct.
not like a phone call for some time. It is constantly in contact. But it is a contact. Why? Contact means two, na? Contact means touch, sparsh karna.
स्पर्श
So,
बराबर है.
exactly. For the purposes of the play, you need multiplicity. The multiplicity is for the purposes of the play. Ekoham bahusyama. I am one, I wish to be many. This comes in one of the Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka, I think. So without multiplicity, play cannot happen. The psychic is constantly in contact with the immanent divine, the divine secret in the individual. It is the psychic that is in direct relation with the transcendent divine. Now he's
This is
talking
bit
of the
different.
transcendent divine.
हाँ, ये different हो गया. So
It's
this
like a
is
hot.
Paramatma. This is Paramatma.
This is Paramatma, Parabrahma, Purushottama, Parameshwara. All these words can be used for that.
So here, can you explain the difference between यहाँ पर contact and direct relation का फर्क क्या हो जाएगा फिर?
Contact में तो वो immanent divine की बात कर रहे हैं. I'll have to think actually.
Correct. हाँ, क्योंकि पर direct relation मैं तो ये words एकदम synonymously ले पा रहा
Synonymous
हूँ.
ही है. Synonymous ही है. See, there is, again, I mean, कैसे बोलना? There is no practical difference between the transcendent divine and the immanent divine. Practical difference. को सेम ही चीज है, ठीक है? Again and again, this has to be kept in mind कि हम एक बहुत ही सूक्ष्म चीज का जो एकदम subtle difference है, we are trying to understand that. And also the difference can really be understood when the experiences happen, right?
Correct,
All this
correct,
is to
correct.
lead us towards that experience. So it is a psychic that is in direct relation with the transcendent divine. That is what he's saying. Direct relation with the transcendent divine and leads the nature upwards towards the supreme. So direct relation with the transcendent divine or contact with the immanent divine, इसके बीच में क्या difference होगा? See, contact is something closer than direct relation in terms of language at least, or is it not? It is, right? अगर आप कहते हैं कि I am in contact with that entity and if you say I am in direct relation with that entity, same ही है वैसे तो. I mean I am
There is a difference between contact and direct relation, I think.
हाँ, contact आप उसको स्पर्श कर रहे हैं, contact is closer.
With the person, I'm in relation
हाँ,
with the person. There is
yes,
a difference in that.
हाँ. Contact is closer, isn't it? Contact, you are touching it. You're
I
actually,
think relation is closer.
relation is closer. See, okay, word wise maybe, but immanent divine is defined as that thing which is within you, right? And transcendent is defined as that which is beyond everything. So, by that logic, the one which is directly within you, you are closer to that. It is more easy to access that rather than that which is beyond everything, beyond all formulas. So, that's why I was.
हम कॉन्टैक्ट किसी के भी हो सकते हैं बट रिलेशन सबके साथ नहीं हो सकता है ना.
Right. But constant contact?
I think there are subtle differences. We should
Subtle
not
difference.
with the
Subtle,
details of it,
subtle.
with the
Yeah.
intricacies of that.
Yes. Yes. It is a psychic that is in direct relation with the transcendent divine. Okay. And leads the nature upwards towards the supreme.
So this line, the and leads the nature upwards towards the supreme. This is where probably why, I don't know, you can correct me. Sri Aurobindo and the mother say you have to in our integral yoga, you concentrate above the head. So then you get to that higher region and you concentrate within the heart for the psychic being. So psychic being का जो पोषण होता है, nourishment is basically through the transcendent divine. Is it so? Is it that?
Yeah. That is why he's saying it is in direct relation with the transcendent divine. But we are not following that psychic all the time. उसके जो intimations हैं, they get clouded by the movements of the mind and vital. But if we do listen to it, and ultimately in any way, it is leading the nature upward towards the supreme.
Yeah, but this is the same thing which you were mentioning earlier, isn't it? The lid above the head vanishes,
Yes.
right? This and the rending of the veil behind the
Yes.
heart.
This is
It
called
is
the
in direct relation with the transcendent divine. As you said, it is getting its nourishment from above the head. वो वहीं से उसको सारा nourishment आ रहा है from the transcendent divine. ठीक है? And but that nourishment is coming directly to the psychic. या जो भी एनर्जी आ रही है फॉर आवर फंक्शनिंग्स. एंड इसमें बट नहीं है एक्चुअली. एंड लीड्स द नेचर अपवर्ड्स टुवर्ड्स द सुप्रीम. हमारे अंदर साइकोलॉजिकली व्हाट इट मीन्स इज, for all practical purposes, what is that thing within us which is taking us towards the divine? It is this thing called the psychic being. उसके और अगर एक लेवल नीचे उतरे भक्ति के द्वारा, या फिर जैसे उसने बोला था, नेचुरल एटीट्यूड ऑफ द साइकिक बीइंग इज टू आइडेंटिफाई इटसेल्फ एज द चाइल्ड, द सन ऑफ गॉड, द भक्ता. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ एटीट्यूड or the things through which the psychic being grows, like karma yoga, offering the actions to the divine. Basically, anyhow, by the growth of the psychic being, it is by that the nature is led upwards towards the supreme. मतलब उसका मीनिंग है. वी आर प्लेइंग विद वर्ड्स, आई नो, बार बार घुमा घुमा के हम एक ही चीज को अलग अलग तरीके से बोल रहे हैं, बट एसेंशियली दिस इज व्हाट इट मींस. हमारे अंदर वो क्या चीज है जो हमको ईश्वर की तरफ लेके जाती है? पुरोहित, द वर्ड दैट इज यूज्ड इन द वेदा फॉर द साइकिक बीइंग. पुरोहित का लिटरल मीनिंग क्या होता है? पुरह एक्चुअली मींस फॉरवर्ड, और वो हिता है या अहिता है जो भी है, जैसे करके हिम्स टू द मिस्टिक फायर में, आई कैन लुक इट अप एंड शेयर इट हियर, दैट मींस प्लेस्ड. सो पुरोहित लिटरली मींस प्लेस्ड इन फ्रंट. तो हमारे जर्नी को जो चीज लीड कर रही है, आवर जर्नी टुवर्ड्स द डिवाइन, the thing that which is leading us towards the divine, that is the psychic being. इसी को pictorially, like if you see the Gita Press Gorakhpur of the Mahabharat, that edition. So पांडवों के जो पुरोहित थे, लोमश ऋषि. So in the picture he is shown leading the procession of the Pandavas towards the forest. तो वो पिक्टोरियली उसको ऐसे दिखाते हैं कि पुरोहित जो है वो आगे चल रहे हैं, बट इन स्पिरिचुअल एंड साइकोलॉजिकल टर्म्स इट मींस दैट इट इज द साइकिक बीइंग व्हिच इज द लीडर ऑफ द जर्नी टुवर्ड्स द डिवाइन. इस सबको पढ़ने का अल्टीमेट, जितना भी आप बातें कर लो, निष्कर्ष यही निकलता है कि हाउ कैन आई ब्रिंग माई साइकिक बीइंग फॉरवर्ड फास्ट. मैं उसको आगे कैसे लेके आ सकता हूँ. सारी बातों का मतलब निचोड़ यही है अल्टीमेटली. एंड अगर आप उसमें एकदम उसमें जाएं, द वन वर्ड आंसर इज भक्ति. Again, bhakti is vital bhakti होती है. Sri Aurobindo is obviously, Sri Aurobindo is, he doesn't say कि ये भक्ति वो भक्ति नहीं करनी है. Vital bhakti is also helpful, ठीक है. But जो true bhakti होती है, as I mentioned the phrase earlier, so बोलते हैं शुद्ध अहैतुकी भक्ति, pure motiveless devotion. You love the divine simply because he is he and you are you and you cannot help it. It cannot be otherwise. It is that kind of devotion which leads us, which brings the psychic being forward most quickly. तब वो जो there is that inrush of divine energy and the progress is faster. Do I make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Actually वही ना, मतलब लगता है कि जलेबी बना रहे हैं शब्दों की, but these are very very सूक्ष्म things and intellectually, and actually they should read it very very silently and meditatively. वो seep in करेगा and then the meaning will emerge from within. But naturally since it's a study session, so intellect का play होगा ही. Right. Okay, next. The divine is, I'm just मतलब trying कि कुछ उसमें रह ना जाए जब तक हमने पढ़ा है, as far as possible. They, the psychic being and the divine presence in the heart. Okay, yeah. The divine is always in the inner heart and does not leave it. अभी वो यहाँ पे उसको inner heart बोल रहे हैं instead of using just the word heart. Probably what he means is that the जो हार्ट चक्रा होता है वो भी इनर है, उसमें आता है, बट ही इज, जिसको इनमोस्ट बोलते हैं साइकिक बीइंग के लिए, कि इट इज इन द हार्ट का भी वो जो अंदर वाला पोर्शन है, नॉट जस्ट द हार्ट एज इन द हार्ट चक्र, ओके, बट इवन इनसाइड दैट, बिकॉज द डिवाइन इज सेड टू बी नॉट जस्ट इन द हार्ट चक्र बट इवन डीपर विद इन. Maybe that is why he is using the word inner for heart here, adjective inner for heart here. The divine is always in the inner heart and does not leave it. बहुत मतलब अपने आप को वो क्या बोलते हैं, सांत्वना देने के लिए कि हाँ वो हमेशा वहीं रहता है और कभी नहीं छोड़ता है. Sometimes even we get
But
the
Anmol,
idea.
it leaves when we die, right? The human body is left, the heart is left when the physical.
Yes. The
No,
human,
this is the
when you
subtle
die,
body.
then the soul leaves the body, and along with the soul, the divine leaves the body.
Anmol, but Anmol, by inner heart is subtle body. No, you just said chakra.
I didn't say inner heart is the subtle body.
Acha, acha.
I didn't say. I said Manomaya Kosha is the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, and I think I posted this thing from the Synthesis of Yoga. आप उसमें बहुत ज्यादा आप इनर वर्ड पे अभी फोकस नहीं करो, ठीक है. The focus in this portion is on the word heart, ठीक है. उसको इनर एडजेक्टिव क्यों लगाया है ये समझने की. यस जीती, यू आर सेइंग समथिंग.
आपने हृदय गुहा बोलते हो ना, वर्ड यूज,
हाँ.
दैट इज नो,
इनर हार्ट मतलब वही जो हृदय के अंदर है, उस सेंस में
गुहा. यू
आप
यूज
उसको इनर, हाँ हृदय गुहा बोलते हैं, द केव ऑफ द हार्ट.
Yeah, that sounds appropriate.
This is, I think, very sukshma and very, it is not a physical.
No, it's not physical. Mother even went to the extent of saying, वो collected works में एक जगह आता है कि it's not that if you will pierce something through the center of the chest, then you will hit the divine over there. It's not like that. कि आपने एक स्पीयर डाला और जब वो स्पीयर बैक के पीछे से निकलेगा तो साथ साथ भगवान निकल जाएंगे, ऐसा नहीं होता. It's in the inner dimension. It's in another dimension. It's not in the physical dimension. Shall we move on to the next one?
Anmol, just one point.
Yes, please.
The more you listen to this, the more it becomes obvious that we have a belief that we are the mind-body complex. Otherwise, the scripture is again and again saying, actually, you are the psychic entity. You are this entity which is in the heart. The physical body is an experience, but that's what you are. But we are confirmed and believing the fact that we are the mind body complex.
Correct.
We are
Because the
born with this
consciousness,
belief that I am this, right?
true, true. Uska, it can also be rephrased like this. What you said is absolutely correct. It all depends on where the consciousness is identifying itself. Okay. As long as the consciousness is, bound in the spiritual sense of the word bound, it identifies itself as the mind body life complex. When it is free, then it identifies itself as it truly is, which is pure consciousness, Satchidananda. But as you rightly said, we have to remind ourselves. Remembrance is one of the great processes in yoga. Smaran, simran bolte hain jaise, Punjabi mein. So it is one of the processes. So hum asmi, aham brahmasmi. I am that, I am that. And by doing this gradually, ये जो illusion है of being identified with the mind body life complex वो dissolve हो जाता है. It is one of the most fundamental processes, remembering. Krato smara, kritam smara. Remember that which was done. Remember, ईशोपनिषद के सेकंड लास्ट वर्स में आता है. Very well point what Yogesh Bhai is saying. Very well said. We are actually the soul. We are actually that psychic entity. We are having the wrong idea that we are the body or the life or the mind. It's a wrong idea that we are sort of imposing on ourselves. What's the time? 8:58. Shall we read the next letter? Somebody would like to read? Archana ji, would you like to read? You're not audible.
Yeah, just increase the volume. I'll start.
Okay. Yeah, please.
The psychic is not, by definition.
There is a footnote here.
Yeah.
Oh, long footnote. Someone had asked from here, you have to read.
It's a
Okay.
beautiful footnote,
Please
actually.
read. Please read.
Yeah. Someone had asked what the psychic being was, whether it could be defined as that part of the being which is always in direct touch with the supramental. I replied that it could not be so defined, for the psychic being in animals or in most human beings is not in direct touch with the supramental. Therefore, it cannot be so described by definition. But once the connection between the supramental and the human consciousness is made, it is the psychic being that gives the readiest response, more ready than the mind, the vital, or the physical. It may be added that it is also a purer response. The mind, vital and physical, can allow other things to mix with their reception of the supramental influence and spoil its truth. The psychic is pure in its response and allows no such mixture. The supramental change can take place only if the psychic is awake and is made the chief support of the descending supramental power.
You can read the whole
Yeah.
letter.
The psychic is not by definition that part of the being which is in direct touch with the supramental plane, although once the connection with the supramental is made, it gives to it the readiest response. The psychic part of us is something that comes direct from the divine and is in touch with the divine. In its origin, it is the nucleus pregnant with divine possibilities that supports this lower triple manifestation of mind, life, and body. There is this divine element in all living beings, but it stands hidden behind the ordinary consciousness, is not at first developed, and even when developed, is not always or often in the front. It expresses itself so far as the imperfection of the instruments allows, by their means and under their limitations. It grows in the consciousness by Godward experience, gaining strength every time there is a higher movement in us, and finally, by the accumulation of these deeper and higher movements, there is developed a psychic individuality, that which we call usually the psychic being. It is always this psychic being that is the real, though often the secret cause of man's turning to the spiritual life and his greatest help in it. It is therefore that which we have to bring from behind to the front in the yoga. We'll read the whole thing or go paragraph by paragraph.
Please read the whole thing.
Okay. The word soul, as also the word psychic, is used very vaguely and in many different senses in the English language. More often than not, in ordinary parlance, no clear distinction is made between mind and soul, and often there is an even more serious confusion. For the vital being of desire, the false soul or desire soul is intended by the words soul and psychic, and not the true soul, the psychic being. The psychic being is quite different from the mind or vital. It stands behind them where they meet in the heart. Its central place is there, but behind the heart rather than in the heart. For what men call usually the heart is the seat of emotion, the human emotions, our mental vital impulses, not ordinarily psychic in their nature. This mostly secret power behind, other than the mind and the life force, is the true soul, the psychic being in us. The power of the psychic, however, can act upon the mind and vital and body, purifying thought and perception and emotion, when then becomes psychic feeling and sensation and action and everything else in us, and preparing them to be divine movements. The psychic being may be described in Indian language as the Purusha in the heart or the Chaitya Purusha, but the inner or secret heart must be understood. Hridaya Guhayam, not
Guhayam.
Guhayam, Hridaya Guhayam,
Hridaye
not
Guhayam. The E here is supposed to be read as A. Hridaye Guhayam.
yeah. Hridaye Guhayam, not the outer vital emotional center. It is the true psychic entity distinguished from the vital desire mind, the psyche spoken of on the page of the Arya to which you make reference.
1 minute. There is a footnote on the word Chaitya Purusha. Chaitya, please read this. The Chitta and the psychic part.
The chitta and the psychic part are not in the least the same. Chitta is a term in a quite different category, something from which we are thrown up to be combined and set in action, the main movements of our external consciousness, and to know it we need not go deep behind our surface or external nature. Category means here another class of psychological factors, tattva vibhaga. The psychic belongs to one class or category, supermind, mind, life, psychic, physical, which covers both the inner and the outer nature. Chitta belongs to quite another class or category, buddhi, manas, chitta, prana, etc., which is the classification made by ordinary Indian psychology. It covers only the psychology of the external being. In this category, it is the main functions of our external consciousness only that are coordinated and put in their place by the Indian thinkers, Chitta is one of these main functions of the external consciousness, and therefore, to know it, we need not go behind the external nature.
Right. Thank you. No, it's not reached the point where we had started from. 1 minute, sorry. Some of what we have read would have definitely appeared repetitive, but it's because these are letters. It's not a proper book written. These are letters written to different people sometimes, and the question is also not there. So little repetition it will be, but the idea of basically reading these sections is कि psychic के बारे में, जीवात्मा के बारे में, spark soul के बारे में, whatever, even one small minute point or clarity which we can get, we are trying before we go back to the essays on the Gita. That is the idea. If people have started finding it repetitive or redundant, we can go back to the essays on the Gita. But my recommendation would be to try to do this section as जितना भी इसके अंदर content है, that would be my this thing. Okay.
No, you rightly said, Anmol bhai. इसमें से सब जो लेटर पे से छोटे-छोटे पॉइंट मिलते हैं
Yeah.
जो क्लैरिटी
It
बिल्ड
will,
अप करते हैं.
yeah, that small minute, some small nuance,
Yeah.
वो आपकी जो understanding है उसको और rich करेगा. And
Correct.
yeah, I feel that's the better way to go about it. Okay. So the psychic is not by definition that part of the being which is in direct touch with the supramental plane. Although once the connection with the supramental is made, it gives to it the readiest response. Someone had asked what the psychic being was, okay, whether it could be defined as that part of the being which is always in direct touch with the supramental. I replied that it could not be so defined. For the psychic being in animals or in most human beings is not in direct touch with the supramental, therefore it cannot be so described by definition. 1 minute. Who has written this? 1 minute. But once the connection between the supramental and the human consciousness is made, it is the psychic being that gives the readiest response, more ready than the mind, vital, or the physical. It may be added that it is also a purer response. The mind, vital, and physical can allow other things to mix with the reception of the supramental influence and spoil its truth. The psychic is pure in its response and allows no such mixture. 1 minute. No, this has to be by Sri Aurobindo only. If it was by a disciple, तो यहाँ लिखा होता अलग से. 1 minute. 1 minute. The psychic is not by definition that part of the being which is in direct touch with the supramental plane. Although once the connection with the supramental is made, it gives to it the readiest response. Okay. Yeah. The psychic being in animals or in most human beings is not in direct touch with the supramental. Therefore, it cannot be so described by definition. But once the connection between the supramental and the human consciousness is made, it is the psychic being that gives the readiest response. More ready than the mind, vital, or the physical. जो direct touch वाली बात बोली थी, it was said to be having the direct relation with the transcendent divine.
Supramental is not transcendent divine.
Transcendent is that from which everything comes, including the supramental.
Yeah, but here he's talking about supramental, no?
I know. But I'm trying to relate with what we had read earlier.
हाँ. तो सब जगह डायरेक्ट वर्ड काफी यूज हुआ है तो कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है.
Anyway, actually supramental के बारे में we have not really हमने cover ही नहीं किया. वो essays on the Gita का subject भी नहीं है. The Gita does not deal with the supermind directly. There are just 2 verses in the Gita for that, 14.3 and 14.4, in which there is a mention of the supermind, Mahat Brahma के नाम से. So supramental is something, I mean, उसका जो Sri Aurobindo is the supramental avatar, it is he who has talked, the word is his coinage, तो उसके बारे में it's a totally different thing. बहुत सारे तरीके हैं to understand it, but उसमें जाएंगे, it will require multiple sessions. and I may not even have the capacity to satisfy people कि supramental समझ में आ गया. But
Anmol, supramental is not either the jiva or the psychic entity
no,
or
no,
the
no,
psychic.
no, 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 no. It is a plane of consciousness. The jiva has to attain to that level where it becomes that supramental being. Supramental is a plane of consciousness. It is not the jiva in that sense. The supramental means knowledge. It is that plane of consciousness which is having total knowledge. Everything else below the supermind is partial knowledge.
Divisive, right?
Yeah, division. It may be added or it is also a purer response. The mind, vital and physical. क्योंकि ये सारा सुपरामेंटल के बारे में है ना, and we have not really touched it. तो फिर the point is उसका sense नहीं. Psychic is pure in its response and allows no such mixture. The supramental change can take place only if the psychic is awake and made the chief support of the descending supramental power. This is important.
Yeah, precondition दे दिया है basically यहाँ पर.
Exactly, necessary condition. The supramental change can take place only if the psychic is awake and is made the chief support of the descending supramental power. This has to be made a note of in the mind. जब भी वो stage आएगी when the supramental has मतलब we are ready for it. The psychic is not by definition that part of the being which is in direct touch with the supramental plane. Although long letter hai, maybe you will not be able to cover it today once the connection it gives. The psychic part of us is something that comes direct from the divine and is in touch with the divine. That is clear. In its origin, it is the nucleus pregnant with divine possibilities that supports this lower triple manifestation of mind, life, and body. This word, it contains all these possibilities within itself. This had come earlier also. जो long letter था जीवात्मन, soul, spark and psychic being वाला, उसमें ये word था. This lower triple manifestation of mind, life and body. So when he uses the word lower, so Sri Aurobindo says there is this higher hemisphere in which are the supermind and the Satchidananda, the four higher principles. And then there is the lower hemisphere which is the mind, life and body. इसी को त्रिलोक बोलते हैं. In the Gita जो first chapter में आता है, अपि त्रैलोक्य राज्यस्य हेतोः किम नु महि कृते. So this is what is called trilok in the literature, traditional literature. ठीक है, लोअर ट्रिपल मैनिफेस्टेशन जहां हम हैं बेसिकली व्हाट इज कॉल्ड इन द गीता एज द अपरा प्रकृति, द लोअर नेचर. ठीक है, देयर इज दिस डिवाइन एलिमेंट इन ऑल लिविंग बीइंग्स, but it stands hidden behind the ordinary consciousness. Okay, is not at first developed, and even when developed is not always or often in the front. It expresses itself so far as the imperfection of the instruments allows, by their means and under their limitations. What are the instruments? The mind, life, and body. What is the thing that is trying to manifest through these? The soul, the psychic entity, or the psychic being, which is practically the same thing. Mother ने भी बोला है. Basically the divine element in us. It grows in the consciousness by Godward experience. This is an important sentence. Gaining strength every time there is a higher movement in us. Any higher aspiration for the Satyam Shivam Sundaram, I have said this several times. जब भी ऐसा कुछ होता है, and finally by the accumulation, I'm sorry, this has to be read slowly and deeply. I'll read it again. It grows in the consciousness by Godward experience, gaining strength every time there is a higher movement in us. And finally, by the accumulation of these deeper and higher movements, there is developed a psychic individuality, that which we call usually the psychic being. It is always this psychic being that is the real, though often the secret cause of man's turning to the spiritual life and his greatest help in it. So, whatever aspiration that we are having for the spiritual life, the secret cause of that is the psychic being and our greatest help in that. It is therefore that which we have to bring from behind to the front in the yoga. We are familiar with these ideas, they have come earlier also in what we have read. 917. I'll try to. अभी तक तो does anybody feel the need for any explanation so far जो हमने पढ़ा है उसमें? All this we have covered. As I said कि कुछ repetitive हो सकता है, but we just trying to. Anybody has any question, कुछ dissatisfaction कि कुछ छूट गया है before I move to the next para? Anyone? I can't see any faces also now, so it's difficult for me to make out. Okay. The word soul, as also the word psychic, is used very vaguely and in many different senses in the English language. More often than not, in ordinary parlance, no clear distinction is made between mind and soul. And often there is an even more serious confusion. I think I better leave it for next time because isme thoda sa, when he's talking about the dual thing and all, so I'll maybe have to refer to something from the Life Divine also. I feel इसका justify नहीं हो पाएगा आज के session में. It will take time. It will take at least 5-6 minutes, if not more.
Maybe we can park it for next time,
We
Anmol
will
bhai.
better to
Rush
do it
नहीं
next
करना
time.
है, नहीं
नहीं, rush नहीं करना चाहिए. We are doing it anyway so slowly, then why to,
नहीं,
rush?
सब क्वालिटी हो रहा है तो होने दीजिए वैसे ही.
Shall we close with silence for today? If anybody has anything to say, a question, sharing anything, we can do that. Otherwise, Jeeti? No.
No, nothing. Thank you, Anmol.
Okay. We'll just be quiet for a minute or so before we close. Uh,